For coming, and I will declare the meeting open. We'll start with a moment for silent prayer or reflection. Amen. Terry?
Here.
Eric Rand,
Here.
Kyle Niederman,
Here.
Lisa Roman,
Here.
John Maston.
I'm here, thank you. And let's stand and deliver the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And justice for all. I will invite you to review and then get a motion to accept the agenda.
I move to accept the agenda.
I will second.
Arjana Aliar,
Yes.
Kyle Niederman,
Yes.
Lisa Roman,
Yes.
Eric Rand,
Yes.
John Maston.
Yes. And now the first of our action items is 3.1.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is recommended the governing board approve the purchase of core knowledge materials to support the recent expansion of this curriculum for all Lake Havasu Unified School District elementary schools. The initial purchase amount for ELA, history, and science in 5 elementary schools is not to exceed $726,000 from capital and/or other approved funds. This amount includes tax and shipping. LHUSD is committed to engaging all students with a focus on scholarship, character, and humanity. A guaranteed and viable curriculum is essential for all students. The governing board approved the expansion of the core knowledge curriculum for all LHUSD elementary schools on December 18, 2020. These materials will be purchased through the Core Knowledge Foundation and Amplify to support the work of our teachers and the necessary training for implementation over the course of the second semester. The amount not to exceed encompasses all teacher and student materials for ELA, history, and science in 5 elementary schools, which is approximately $145,000 per school. This item has been approved by the business department.
Do we have any questions on the item?
Can you ask for a motion?
I will ask for a motion.
I so move that we move to accept the curriculum materials as presented.
I will second.
I have one question. What is our cost per student?
Cost per student, great question. So for students, they do receive a consumable, and the cost, depending on your grade level, is between $35 and $40 per student for a consumable. The remaining costs are all the costs that are for our teacher materials and training that is provided to our teachers.
And how will the training be accomplished?
So the training is currently scheduled for in-person, and it is closer to the summer, so we are hoping it can still be in person, but they have also quoted us the exact same price if they need to do that virtually.
And what do you see this adding to a classroom?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I asked her what she saw this adding to a classroom.
So we did a little bit of research, and the last time we have an approval of a reading textbook adoption for our elementary schools was 2006. So we are really bringing curriculum back, bringing materials for teachers and students. And it's really that piece the board has really worked to provide a guaranteed and viable curriculum, and this supports that fully.
I know when I was looking at this, I wanted to really do my research on it. And so I wanted to share with you a little bit of the research that I did. Because when you're buying a curriculum for your school, it's kind of, I always look at it as like buying a necessity for your house. It's something that you really need, like if your foundation is cracked or something like that. So I kind of went through the same process that I would go through with that type of purchase. And there are a couple of things you look at. First, you bring in contractors and you say, is this a reasonable cost? Dr. Stone provided some information there. I did a lot of independent research. The cost is very reasonable. So if anybody is listening and wondering about the cost, it costs less than you would pay, significantly less than you would pay for homeschool curriculum per student if you had to do that. So, and I, with the research I'm presenting, I would, if anybody wants to ask, contact me directly about my independent research, please do. The second thing you do is you bring in companies and you kind of compare. So what is this core knowledge? Well, I did my research, I looked out there and I compared what this curriculum is doing. And I looked at several schools across the state who use this curriculum. They're some of the top public schools in the state. Now, we do very well in Mojave County when we compare with the other schools. I would like to start thinking as comparing with the best schools in the state. I believe this is a step in that direction, giving students and teachers the tools to do that. So a couple of things too is some of the concerns in the December meeting were, are we doing a classical curriculum for all the schools? And the answer to that is no. During the summer, I was very interested in the curriculum and what they were doing at Oro Grande. I met with teachers who were teaching the curriculum, and they stepped me through what was core knowledge and what was the classical academy. Core knowledge is kind of the skeleton of what you really knew. In fact, I would say it's the musculature. The skeleton is maybe the state standards, and core knowledge is kind of the musculature of what's going on. So, and then they stepped me through the other things that they were doing to make theirs a classical academy. I see this as being a core for the elementary schools and really allowing us to have some flexibility in the future to make, as a basis, kind of like making some other types of schools like STEM schools or STEAM schools and anything that the community would like us to do. I think that's going to be a first step in looking at some things we can do there. So in kind of summary, I look at it, this is kind of a check mark. Is it good for students? Yes, check. Is it good for teachers? Check. A lot of the teachers I talked about here in town before I ran, one of the things that they were concerned about was that there was a consistent curriculum. This does check that. Is it good for parents? Check. Reasonable. Cost, it's going to help your students. And last of all, is it good for the community? Check. It is. So it checks everything that I kind of think about when I'm thinking about what's going to happen for our students. And so I fully support this, and I urge the other board members to support it as well.
I am especially excited about the consumable part of it because I've heard with other programs, and I'm thinking of Singapore Math and Right Now, but one of the things that the teachers really like about especially Singapore Math is that it does have a workbook component. And so the teachers have said, and this was pre-pandemic, but they've talked about how it really reinforces home support to be able to send the students home with a workbook, because a lot of parents can help their kids with math homework if they can refer to examples and see, oh, okay, they'll catch on. If you are an adult and you learned this math when you were a kid, a lot of it will come back to you even if you're a little rusty. Workbooks really have facilitated some of that help. And so I heard a lot of positives from teachers that just having a workbook changed what they were able to do with their students. And so I'm excited for that component. And I also, I will kind of also throw my support in for this program.
I see this as the start of the pathway forward from elementary to middle to high school. And I think when we do this, what we are doing with our district is we are giving ourselves a singleized focus, as opposed to focusing on this little thing here and this little thing there and this other little thing over there. We need to stop doing that. We need to be more about making sure that the students are well educated and they're the first in our concerns. And I think that's what this really does, is this puts that child first and foremost in what we're doing. And it does it at a price that I think is low. And the reason why I think that is low is I've been in this boardroom when we've been going through textbooks for the high school for English, and it's been a lot more expensive per person than what this is right now.
I mean, it's still a chunk of change, but this is something that, this is what we should be spending our capital on.
Yes, this should be how we focus our district, and this should be how we treat our children. Because when the children come into a school or into the district, they become district kids as well as home kids. So let's be those people. Are we ready for the question?
Kyle Niederman,
Yes.
Lisa Roman,
Yes.
Eric Haran,
Emphatic yes.
Archiana Eliar,
Yes.
John Maston.
Happily, yes. And that takes us down to announcements.
We don't have any announcements today.
Does any board member have any announcements? Then I would just point out that on Tuesday, January 9th at 6 p.m., we've got another meeting coming up, and this one will be over at Lake Havasu High School
January 19th.
on January 19th. Yes, sir. On that, I will take a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Eric Haran,
Yes.
Lisa Roman,
Yes.
Kyle Niederman,
Yes.
Archiana Eliar,
Yes.
John Maston.
Yes.